Alright folks, in this video I'm going to discuss the paradox of life imitating art. We're going to talk about America's next Civil War and how it relates to the 2024 movie Civil War. This is Urban Sentinel, and let's get into it. Now right off the top, I'm saying this up front, this is a subjective thought experiment. This is strictly based off of the what-if scenarios of creative ideas and speculation. So the director, Alex Garland, he did several films, 28 Days Later being one of them, made a movie about our 21st century America being in the middle of a second Civil War. Now, I'm not going to try to specifically avoid spoilers, but I am going to discuss relevant plot points within the film as they occur. So the story closely revolves around four people. A veteran news anchor person, a thrill-seeking sort of reporter, a war photographer, and a younger photographer trying to sort of make her way and make her name known during this time period. The bulk of the movie is this group traveling by car going from New York City to DC. And if you look on a map, it's pretty much a straight shot, but because of the conditions that are going on, the Civil War, they have to take a detour, taking them through large areas of the mid-Atlantic region, basically circumnavigating through Pennsylvania, down and around, coming up through the, the Virginia areas to circle back up and make their way towards DC. Now, there is no clear statement at any point in the movie how long the Civil War has been going on. There's been no clear statement made as to what the cause of the Civil War was, what even the goal, the end goal, end game of it, or the key players are. What is known is that the current president in the film took a third term. And as you know, in the Constitution, you get 2 strikes. That's it. So the state of California and the state of Texas and the state of Florida are allied together against DC. Now, with the loyalist states that are involved, you only see in the movie a brief shot of a reflection off of some glass that was playing from a TV, where you see an image of the continental body of the United States. You see the colors distinctly marked off for California, for Texas, and for Florida. And then you see a different band of colors going from Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, all the way across through Oklahoma, getting into the Great Lakes area, going up around there, and shooting across the middle through like Tennessee, Kentucky, hitting North Carolina, Virginia, moving all the way up the mid-Atlantic, all the way to the top of New England. Those being referenced to being the loyalists, meaning loyal to the president. Now, logistically speaking, it is and for YouTube purposes, a fuster duck of a scenario where you have a third-term president having this large swath of the loyalist states to that presidency, and then 2 outlier states, California and Texas, banding together. Now, I'm not specifically saying that crazy things couldn't happen and that sometimes the most bizarre outcomes start from something that you would not normally expect, but within the context of the film, you still have to think, what did occur to get Texas and California right off the top to band together against what seemingly is a good section of the country going all the way across from coast to coast pretty much. And you still have to wonder, are all the states that are loyal in total unity, or are they going along and getting along just for a limited purpose? And even within all the states, it's not necessarily to say that every single person agrees entirely on the course of action being taken. It could be seen from a more governmental process that the governments and the leaders are working together, or at least working well enough together to form this sort of union. Now, of course, the elephant in the room is that based upon what you see in the trailers and what you see in the movie, the president in that film has a sort of stereotypical right-leaning flavor. But again, nothing is stated. You imply your own thoughts onto it, but nothing is stated about a political affiliation or political party or any means or motives whatsoever. But let's overlay that into our actual reality. Let's put that blanket on top of it and just see how certain things go. With that being said, you have to think to yourself, what could have occurred that a president would go for a third term? And then you also have to think in the reality of it. Let's start with Texas and California. It's anecdotal. I know the numbers are there, But Texas, as an example, is probably 80% Republican, 20% Democrat. California is the inverse. It's probably 80% Democrat and 20% Republican. They don't agree overall on any line item going down in a row. So for something to occur where they both agree that they'll work together to fight against the president and the other states that are supporting the president. And in terms of Florida, which I had mentioned earlier, Florida is Florida. It's not knocking them. Florida is like the cousin that shows up at the family cookout and jumps into the swimming pool, clothes and all, without a care in the world. But that crazy cousin is also the same one that when your back is against the wall and someone's coming after you, they're the first person to step up and get ready to go toe-to-toe against whoever it is. So that being said, I can see how in the film Florida is along for the ride, as crazy as it may be, because they're up for the adventure. But you have to look at the other states. If you, again, overlay it into our current situation, can you really see a state like Connecticut, New York, Delaware, any of those other states going along and saying, hey, we are supporting this president and the actions that are going on? You can't. And you also can't really see them simply hanging back, although in the movie they do reach certain points where they come across different people in different areas as they've traveled, that some areas of the country look like they are in the middle of a war, and they're witnessing and recording active engagements of firefights. Other areas, they look like any old town on a Sunday afternoon in May. You see absolutely nothing wrong with it, nothing going on. The only thing that stands out is the fact that there is nothing going on that makes you think something is a little off here. Now, as I said before, when you look at it from that wider perspective, you traditionally think of, well, you know, we had a civil war, the North versus the South. Yes, it was cut and dry. It was the war of the states. Certain number of states over here and a certain number of states over here fighting, effectively speaking, at a median. But that is conventional warfare, which no longer exists. 20 years in Afghanistan and all the other wars that have been going on around the world outside of just what the Americas were invested in. It is no longer a static position of my side, your side. It is factional warfare. It is asymmetric warfare. It's the old rule of thumb used to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend, has now become the enemy of my enemy is my friend until I find a better enemy to become friends with. You have to think about all the hot button topics in our society that galvanize people, that when you see them on TV, you see the media covering it, you see one side is for this and the other side is against this. But on each side, every person and every group has something else that they're either opposed to or support on some other minor level. And you have those associations. Well, I'll work with you to defeat them because you're supporting what I believe in here. But the second I have this chance, I'm going to take you out because I don't believe in this other thing that you're supporting over there. And that's the way it tends to go. It's far closer to reality where nothing is fixed. You have a certain level of malleability within those constructs that you're going to have definitive, yes, this is where we're fighting and this is what we're fighting for, but you're also going to have those underlying undertones of until we can get the advantage and take control of this or remove this person from over here, we're going to have to play these games. Now, in some of the scenes, you see what you believe to be military personnel fighting against other military personnel. Other cases, it's a clear mix of citizen militia, just everyday people armed and defending themselves with, working along with people that appear to be the military. Other cases, you're not quite sure what you're looking at. And it seems to be more of a hodgepodge. You know, the rule of law has gone out the window and it's now the law of the land. People are in control of their areas, maintaining a certain level of peace and control, regulating and making the decisions on, well, pretty much who lives, who dies, who gets in, who gets out, that sort of thing. And that, again, is going to be a realistic factor in a scenario like that. So when you have those levels of conflict and you lose the overall control barriers, the stop gaps that keep people in check. If you think back to just when the Soviet Union fell, the Soviet Union controlled a wide section of that whole Eastern European area where you had people within borders that did not get along, but they had a simple choice. Soviet Union told them, you don't get along, That's fine. We don't care. If there's trouble, we come in, we level the entire town, and we kill all of you. So they kept their, their mouths closed, and they got along to get along. Once the Soviet Union collapsed, then you started having all these small micro wars. You started having all of these small conflicts that started moving all over the place because people, once again, were allowed to effectively go at it and do what they felt was necessary for their own survival and safety. So bringing it back to thinking about where we're at currently and all the whispers and all the talk and all the different things going out, the rhetoric, because that's what it comes down to. It's not going to be plain, simple, cut and dry of, oh, this is the exact cause of it. There may be contributing factors. There may be things that we're not concerned about individually. There may be things that we overlook entirely. We don't see the full effect from the cause. We think, oh, this is what's starting it and this is how it's going to go, but not fully understanding that we're going to hit a certain point where this starts to change, and in some cases you have to adapt to it. And a mental preparation, more than anything else, is that realization that it won't be clean cut, simple and dry. It's going to be messy, it's going to be jagged, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be something that when you watch it on TV you think, oh, that's a terrible thing to happen to those people over there, until the cameras are on you and someone on the other side of the world is going, oh man, that's a terrible thing to happen to those people over there. But now you're those people, you're in that situation. And that's where certain levels of the film allude to, without specifically saying this person or this group is to blame. And to one extent, towards the end of the film, it was, in my opinion, anticlimactic, because I'll say this, it's not an action film. The trailers may give you this illusion of it's fast paced, it's a Michael Bay film. It's not an action film. It's more of an aggressive documentary style film. It's less about the shooting and the blowing up and all that sort of stuff. It's more on the individual characters, and you are, to one extent, when you're watching them, you're seeing their mindset, their thought pattern, their ideas and ideals sort of morph and shift and move in certain directions. And you begin to sort of see collectively through the lens, watching them, little bits of, I can kind of see how certain things can go off to one side or off to the other based upon their personality, their actions, and their behaviors. But it does bring it to a certain realistic event where you're never going to truly know. Yes, someone will write down in the books, this is how the American Civil War, the Second Civil War started, and these were the reasons, and people will read it and go, yeah, that sounds about right. Because they're not going to have all the small little pieces, all the tiny little bits of information that built up collectively and accumulated year after year after year, building up to that point. It's really sort of, you only see the big things when they happen, and you don't really notice all the small things that help build it up to that level, to bring it up to the forefront, to your eye level. Now, in terms of life imitating art, yes, across any time span, you're going to find coincidence. You're going to find patterns. You're going to see certain cycles. And this movie, to one extent or another, I like to view it as it's something that says, hey, within this time frame, these events could lead to. And then when you look at the reality over here on our side and you say, okay, well, this is going on right now and this is kind of reaching this level here and this could go in that direction or it could go in this other direction, but you're never really going to notice it because you're in the middle of it. No matter how far we step back to take a look at things, we're still in the middle. We can't step out of the room and still be inside seeing everything. It's either you're in it and it's happening, or after it's over, or you're completely removed from it, then you can look and you can see what's going on. And that is where I feel we're at now, politically, economically, socially. Everything's sort of getting kicked around inside there. And it's going to be a certain point where once things really start to take off, every little thing that happens in the news is oh, this is a key point, this is a key point, this is a key point. But we don't really have a concentrated, focused area, a timeline that says it started here, moved to here, went to here, and then ended over here. And that's the way I think that things are going. And the parallel within the movie, when you look at the certain levels of abstract, cinematic quality, and you then look at actual news headlines and you look at things that are going on, you can easily see how the director could, mesh those two together, and you can say, well, it's just a parallel to what has been going on, and it's just sort of looking ahead, speculating as to the things that could go on. But also, that's exactly the way things were in the first Civil War. Things were abstract, things were novel, things were sort of, oh, it's just this area. There are news articles during the first Civil War where people came out to watch some of the battles. It was something you did. You packed a basket, you went down with a blanket, and oh, look, there's the Northerners fighting against some of the Southerners. And that's the way it was. You'd stay for a few hours and then you'd go home. No one really thought it was an actual thing. It was just a small, almost inconsequential event until it continued to grow and grow and grow. And then people realized a little too late that no, this is something much bigger. That could be the exact situation where we're at. We're seeing small things here and there, and it's real easy for someone to say, oh, this is it, this is what's going to happen, and then nothing happens next week, next month, next year, maybe not at all. But it's also that same situation where it's a 50-50, where that one small little thing actually ends up being the key catalyst that moves something in that direction, full on, no stop, brakes are gone, and you're heading straight off the cliff. So in best case scenario, it's much ado about nothing. Worst case scenario, this is exactly what it is. It's a build up to a larger, broader conflict that is going to catch everyone sort of off guard, because we're going to be flat-footed and it's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Check out these other videos and I'll catch you in the next one.